You can't see anything. That's the first thing that hits you. Not the heat, not the weight, not even the sound, just nothing. Your eyes are open, but the air around you is so thick, so impossibly dense that light itself can't reach you. You try to inhale and your lungs collapse inward, crushed by an atmosphere pressing down with the weight of 1,000 oceans. Your bones grind together, your ribcage folds, and somewhere far above, beyond the impenetrable fog of hydrogen and helium that buries you alive, a distant sun you will never see again flickers in a sky you can no longer reach. You are inside a planet, and it is killing you slowly, methodically, without malice or mercy. We call them exoplanets, worlds beyond our solar system, drifting in the void, circling stars we've only just learned to name. For years, we imagined they would be like the planets we grew up with, rocky, predictable, maybe a little colder or hotter, but fundamentally familiar. We were wrong. What we found instead were nightmare factories, worlds where the laws of survival don't bend, they shatter. Where rain doesn't fall, it incinerates. Where wind doesn't blow, it flays. And where standing still for even a moment means being erased from existence. Let's start with something that sounds almost peaceful. A planet locked in place, one side always facing its star, the other eternally turned away. Tidally locked, the astronomers call it. One hemisphere burning under a sun that never sets, the other frozen in a night that never ends. You'd think the dark side would be the safer bet. You'd be wrong. Because between the two extremes, where the eternal day meets the eternal night, there is a zone, a thin, unstable ring where temperatures almost seem livable. Almost. But this is not a place of balance. This is a place of war. The air here doesn't rest. It screams. Superheated gas from the day side rushes toward the frozen night, desperate to escape the inferno. It accelerates to speeds that would shred metal, howling across the surface in a perpetual, unending storm. You wouldn't hear it coming. By the time the sound reached you, you'd already be gone, ripped apart and scattered across a landscape that knows only violence. Now, imagine something worse. Imagine standing on a world where the ground beneath you isn't solid, where the surface itself is a sea of molten rock, churning and hissing under a sky filled with ash. This is a lava planet, and it doesn't wait for you to understand what's happening. The heat doesn't creep up on you. It detonates inside your skin. Your body tries to sweat, but the moisture evaporates before it even forms. Your eyes dry out, your corneas crack, and the last thing you see before your vision burns away is the horizon glowing red. The entire world a furnace with no walls and no exit. You try to move, but your feet sink into the surface, and the rock, molten, clinging, impossibly heavy, pulls you down. You are not drowning. You are being consumed. And the worst part? Some of these planets are vanishing, evaporating. Their stars are so close, so furiously hot, that the entire surface is boiling away into space, molecule by molecule. If you were there, you wouldn't just die. You'd become part of the cloud, a vapor, a ghost drifting through the void, forever separated from anything you once were. But heat is only one kind of terror. There are places where the danger is quieter, more insidious. Worlds where the sky doesn't burn you, it buries you. These are the ice giants, planets wrapped in atmospheres so massive, so crushingly dense, that descending into them feels like sinking into a living thing. At first, it's almost beautiful. Clouds of pale blue and white, swirling in patterns too vast to comprehend. But as you fall deeper, the light fades, the pressure climbs, your ears pop, then rupture. Your lungs refuse to expand, and still you fall. Kilometers, tens of kilometers. The temperature rises, but not from fire, from compression. The atmosphere itself is being squeezed so hard it begins to heat, to glow, to hum with a deep, resonant frequency that you feel in your chest, in your teeth, in the core of your spine. You are nowhere near the bottom. There may not even be a bottom, just layer after layer of hydrogen pressing inward, tighter and tighter, until the very concept of solid ground becomes meaningless. And then there are the storms, not the kind you're used to, not rain and thunder and wind that eventually passes. These are storms that have been raging for centuries. Cyclones larger than Earth, spinning at speeds that would liquefy anything caught inside. On some planets, these storms don't move. They're anchored, locked in place by the planet's rotation, Yongju features etched into the atmosphere like scars. You wouldn't survive long enough to see the eye of the storm. The outer bands alone would pulverize you, slamming you with winds that don't gust. They detonate over and over, faster than sound, faster than thought. And if somehow, impossibly, you made it through, if you reached the center where the air is calm and still, you'd find yourself floating in a pocket of silence so absolute, so wrong, that your mind would unravel trying to make sense of it, because you'd know in that moment that the calm is temporary, that the walls of wind are still spinning around you, and that there is no way out. Let's talk about rain. You know what rain is supposed to be. Water falling gently, or sometimes not so gently, from the sky. It's inconvenient, it's refreshing, it's life. But there are worlds where rain is something else entirely. Imagine clouds made not of water vapor, but of vaporized iron. Imagine temperatures so extreme that metal doesn't just melt, it evaporates, rises into the upper atmosphere, and condenses into droplets. And then it falls. Molten iron, pouring from the sky in sheets, each drop glowing, white-hot, hissing as it descends. If you were standing there, you wouldn't have time to run. The first drop would burn straight through you. The second would finish the job, and the rain wouldn't stop. It never stops. The planet's day side is hot enough to vaporize iron. The night side is just cool enough to let it condense. And in between, the rain falls endlessly, painting the surface in rivers of liquid metal that glow like veins of fire in the dark. But some planets don't bother with subtlety. Some of them just want to erase you. Take the worlds where glass forms in the atmosphere. Silicate particles suspended in clouds, whipped into a frenzy by winds that never sleep. These particles don't drift, they accelerate, reaching speeds so high that they become projectiles, cutting through anything in their path. This is not a sandstorm. This is a barrage. A horizontal hail of glass shards moving faster than bullets, shredding the landscape, carving canyons into mountains, reducing anything soft, anything living, to dust in seconds. You wouldn't feel pain. There wouldn't be time. One moment you'd be standing, trying to shield your face, trying to understand what's happening. The next, you'd be gone. Not dead, not exactly, just scattered, broken down into particles small enough to join the storm, to become part of the very thing that destroyed you. And still, we haven't reached the worst, because there are planets where the danger isn't just physical, it's existential. Worlds so hostile, so utterly incompatible with anything resembling life that even imagining yourself there feels like a mistake. Gas giants with cores so hot they rival the surface of stars. Planets orbiting so close to their suns that their atmospheres are being stripped away in real time, trailing behind them like comet tails made of superheated gas. Worlds where radiation floods the surface with such intensity that your cells would begin to disintegrate before you even felt the heat. You wouldn't have time to think, wouldn't have time to regret. The very fabric of your biology would come apart, molecule by molecule, until nothing remained but a faint outline of organic material, burned into the ground like a shadow. Here's the thing that keeps astronomers awake at night. The thing they don't always say out loud. We've found thousands of these planets, thousands. And the more we look, the more we realize that Earth, our quiet, temperate, absurdly stable little world is the exception, the outlier, the statistical anomaly. The universe isn't filled with places like home. It's filled with places like these: crucibles, blenders, ovens, worlds that seem designed almost deliberately to make existence impossible. And somewhere, out there in the dark, there are planets we haven't found yet. Planets worse than anything we've cataloged. Planets where the mechanisms of destruction are so alien, so fundamentally incomprehensible, that we don't even have words for what they would do to you. You don't have to go there to feel it. That's the strange part. You can sit here, safe in your room, millions of miles away, and still feel the weight of it pressing down on you. The knowledge that these places exist, that the universe is vast enough to contain them, that somewhere, right now, a planet is raining glass. Somewhere, a storm has been screaming for longer than human civilization has existed. Somewhere, a world is evaporating into nothing, and no one is there to witness it. And you realize, slowly, uncomfortably, that the universe doesn't care. It doesn't notice. It simply is. And in its indifference, it has created horrors beyond imagination, not out of cruelty, but out of sheer, blind, mechanical possibility. Let's go deeper. Because there's a planet out there, and this one is real, documented, studied, where the temperature on the day side is hot enough to vaporize most metals, but the night side is cool enough for compounds to condense and solidify. And because the planet is tidally locked, because one side always faces the star and the other never does, the atmospheric dynamics create something truly nightmarish. A perpetual jet stream circling the planet at the terminator line, moving at thousands of kilometers per hour. Anything caught in that wind would be accelerated to speeds that would tear it apart at the molecular level. But here's the twist. The debris doesn't escape. It gets trapped in the jet stream, circling the planet forever. A spinning graveyard of shattered matter moving so fast it glows. You wouldn't see it until it hit you, and by then, you'd already be part of it. Think about pressure for a moment. Really think about it. On Earth, at sea level, the atmosphere presses down on you with about 14 pounds per square inch. You don't feel it because you're built for it, because your body pushes back with equal force. But on some of these planets, the pressure isn't 14 pounds, it's hundreds of times that, thousands. Enough to compress carbon into diamond, enough to turn gases into liquids, liquids into solids, solids into forms of matter that don't exist naturally anywhere on Earth. If you were dropped onto one of these worlds, your body wouldn't crumple slowly. It would collapse instantly, like a tin can in a hydraulic press. Your bones would shatter. Your organs would rupture, and the atmosphere, indifferent and eternal, would continue pressing until every trace of you was compacted into a dense, unrecognizable mass no larger than a marble. Some planets don't kill you with force. They kill you with absence. Rogue planets drifting through interstellar space, untethered to any star, frozen, lightless, silent. You might think that's peaceful, but it's not, because on a rogue planet, there is no day, no night, no cycle, no change. Just an endless, unchanging void where the temperature hovers just above absolute zero, where the surface is a sheet of frozen nitrogen and methane, where the only sound is the faint creak of ice contracting in the cold. You wouldn't freeze to death quickly. It would take minutes, maybe longer, as the cold seeped into you, slowing your blood, crystallizing the water in your cells, shutting down your brain one synapse at a time. And in those final moments, as your thoughts slowed and fragmented, you'd be surrounded by nothing. No light, no warmth, no sky. Just the infinite, crushing emptiness of a world that was never meant to be found. And then there are the planets we can barely comprehend, the ones that challenge our understanding of what a planet even is. Worlds made of diamond, their entire mantles compressed into crystalline carbon. Planets with oceans of liquid methane, where the rain is so cold it would freeze your blood solid before you hit the surface. Worlds where the gravity is so strong that time itself moves differently, where every second you spend there is a minute somewhere else, where the universe outside ages faster than you can understand. And by the time you realize what's happening, everyone you've ever known is long dead. These aren't science fiction. These are predictions, extrapolations based on the math we already have. And the math doesn't lie. The math just tells you what's possible. And what's possible is so much worse than what's probable. You start to wonder after a while why we keep looking, why we build bigger telescopes, more sensitive instruments, why we catalog every new planet we find with such meticulous care. Maybe it's because we need to know. Maybe it's because the universe is too vast to ignore, and pretending these places don't exist doesn't make them go away. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe we're looking for a mirror, a reflection of ourselves, a sign that somewhere out there, on one of these countless worlds, something else is looking back. But what we've found instead is silence and fire and crushing darkness and storms that never end. And the more we look, the clearer it becomes that if something is out there, if something has survived on one of these nightmare worlds, it is so far beyond us, so incomprehensibly adapted to horrors we can barely imagine that we might not even recognize it as life. The universe is not empty. It's full, full of worlds, full of violence, full of beauty so terrible and vast that it breaks something inside you to even picture it. And the worst part, the part that lingers long after you've closed your eyes, long after you've turned away, is that these planets don't care whether you understand them or not. They don't care whether you fear them. They exist, indifferent and eternal, spinning in the dark, waiting for nothing, destroying nothing, simply being. And in their existence, they prove something we've always suspected but never wanted to admit, that the universe is not here for us, that it was never here for us, that we are cosmically, infinitesimally lucky to be standing on a world that doesn't immediately kill us. And that luck, like everything else, is temporary. Somewhere out there, a planet is raining iron. Somewhere, a storm is screaming. Somewhere, a world is being crushed under its own weight. And you, sitting here, safe and small and impossibly fragile, are separated from those places by nothing more than distance. Just distance. And the thin, breakable shell of atmosphere that keeps you alive. Sleep well.